Good morning. It is August 13th, 2016. This is my first video entry to my Reiki journal. And I've been meaning to do this Reiki journal for a while. I think I've actually been officially in the apprenticeship program for over a month now. And I just have not had the time to do this. So today I had a revolutionary thought, and I just thought, well, let's just go ahead and start this blog. So, before I get to today's revolutionary thought, what I want to talk about is that Reiki has been completely transformational for me since I started doing it. I got my certificate for level 1 in October, and so I've been doing Reiki for half an hour on myself every day since then. I've noticed some things where my asthma has really backed off a lot since then. Acid reflux has really backed off a lot since then. Breathing is generally just so much easier. And when I do my Reiki, I just ask that the energy goes in the place that's going to benefit me the most. And I think where I am happiest about what the Reiki has done for me is it has allowed me to have a transformation emotionally in how I relate to other people. Before I started doing Reiki, I had a lot of issues with um, letting other people push me around, even in extreme cases, be rude to me or very rude to me, especially in intimate relationships. People could get away with murder with me, things that were completely inappropriate. And now I'm in a phase where when somebody doesn't treat me with consideration and appreciation and, um, yeah, just basic consideration, I notice that where before I didn't even notice that. And I not only notice it enough to make a decision of I don't want to be around that person so much, and distancing myself from those people. And in romantic relationships, um, I've flip flopped. I wouldn't say I've flip flopped, but I've come around to a whole different perspective about handling the situation that I'm in. Right now, I'm with somebody who is trying to stay sober and who is doing better than he used to, which is good. I think, although he has not admitted this, I think he also is dealing with a sex addiction as well, but I don't know that for sure. Um, and he and I have been off and on for more than 2.5 years now. Usually, I would break up with him whenever things got extremely bad and it was obvious in front of my face that he was not being faithful to me. And I mean, it had to be really obvious, like almost undeniable. Of course, he was still denying it. And so we were off and on quite a bit. Um, and there was just a lot of lying and um, a lot of all that stuff that goes on with addiction was going on. The lying, deceptiveness, the whole ego thing. He was the most important, and the guilt trips and the manipulation and all of that stuff was coming out of him. And, if I would put up with it as long as I could, and, realizing that he was sick, and then I would have enough and I would lose it and push him out of my life again. Um, I feel very drawn to him. I keep going back to him. I think he probably is my twin flame because um, I always end up going back to him. And I've been in relationships before where somebody would do something that was really rude or inconsiderate, and I would be like, no, can't see you again. And I wouldn't think twice about it. I just would stop. I would tell them, and if they didn't get the picture, I just wouldn't take their phone calls or whatever. With this guy, that is not something that I've been able to do. And so I do feel like he is my twin flame, like I said, and so he's calling me to do a lot of growth. And I'm very thankful that the Reiki is in my life because I feel like I have done a lot of growth and it's really speeded up a lot thanks to the Reiki. Um, I went into a phase where I just didn't tolerate any of his craziness for a while at all and really stood up for myself, which was good. It was a huge improvement on how I had been before, with mostly not standing up for myself, just occasionally. And that always resulting in a big breakup, not really resulting in any kind of communication or discussion. Not that that was all my fault, but because he's not that good at communicating or discussion on some of these things sometimes. But it was partially my fault because whenever I would lose it, I would be very emotional. And of course, who wants to try to communicate with somebody who's triggered and emotional? It's really not productive. So, partially, definitely, I can take accountability for that, that we didn't have good communication during that time. So, we have gotten back together within the last couple of weeks again, and things are better. I'm also doing Reiki for him. He's given me permission to do Reiki for him as well as me. So I'm still doing Reiki on myself, half an hour every day. Doing Reiki on him, half an hour every day. With the idea that as I do more Reiki on him, letting that Reiki go to wherever it will benefit him the most, he will start walking more in his own integrity as well. And eventually, my hope is that as he walks more and more in his own integrity, as deep root issues are healed up for him, um, he'll be able to figure out what he really wants from life, and he'll be able to verbalize that and enforce that in his life. Because right now, I don't see a lot of any of that really, um, not in any significant way. So there's that. Other than I know that he does want to be sober, and he is trying to do that. Um, and he tells me that he wants to be with me, um, but proof is in the pudding, and right now he's got enough issues that his pudding is pretty, pretty scattered, let's just put it that way. So anyway, now I'm going through a phase where I'm with him, I know he has issues, um, and I'm taking it a lot less personal than I did before. Um, just everything. I'm trying to take it a lot less personal than I did before. And I can tell that he's also in a different place as well. He's starting to acknowledge some of what I've been through with him. He's starting to understand a little bit about why I feel the way I feel. The other day I did kind of get a little bit insecure and possessive and freaked out. And, he backed away from me. And after a couple hours, I calmed down and I realized that I kind of wasn't even talking sanely at the moment. And we actually talked about that the next day. And um, I told him, I just basically said, I really wasn't acting sane and I didn't realize it right then. And what you did was the best thing. And he said, well, he says, there's a lot of history there. So he like understood where I was coming from, which is a new thing for him to understand where I'm coming from and to not try to hold something over my head when I get upset or to guilt trip me or to, um, say something like, well, I don't like to fight with you, so I'm not going to be around for a long time now or something like that. Um, none of that came out. He actually understood, where I was coming from, and that's a big deal. Big, big, big deal for us. So we're starting to communicate better. I'm also listening to him a little bit more, and I'm starting to appreciate where he's coming from in ways that I didn't do that before because I was too emotional. I was just taking things too personally that weren't really that personal. So, so I'm also understanding him in ways that I haven't understood him before. So I can see where the Reiki is making a huge improvement in that. I don't know what's going to happen in this relationship. In some ways, he still acts very much like he used to before, and in other ways, I can see where he's really growing. So, we'll just see where this takes us. I have no guarantees for myself that I will always be calm. A couple of days ago, I had that outburst, and that doesn't help the relationship either. So, we just kind of have to see where it goes. And I'm just going to keep doing the healing work on both of us all the way along until I don't know when. Um, so, anyway, so hopefully until we get into a good place together, whatever that ends up looking like, whether it's friendship or whether it's partners or whatever that is. Let's see. So that's been the biggest change that Reiki has had. It's not the biggest change, but it's been the most life impacting to be able to have those kind of emotional changes, to go from letting somebody walk all over me all the time and crying and hurt, and then letting them come back in the door, to standing up for myself and um, not letting them back in because I didn't let him back in for a while, to coming to a place of understanding that he has issues and that it's not nearly as personal as I was taking it, and understanding that I love him and I have some hope now because he's willing to accept the Reiki treatments, and because I'm doing Reiki on myself, I believe that we have hope for this relationship, and not taking things personal. So, I've really made a huge metamorphosis here, and I'm sure it's not complete. I'm sure there's lots more to learn. Um, he's a few months behind me on receiving Reiki treatments, so um, we'll see what happens within the next few months or year that comes up with me keeping on with this. Anyway, so that has been huge just for the changes that it's made in myself, much less the changes I'm seeing in him as well. Um, the other exciting things that Reiki has done for me is it helped bring my parents and I back closer together. They came out for a visit back in July, and I did some Reiki on each of them before they came out, because first my mom said, well, your dad's neck has a really bad crick in it, and he doesn't know if he can be in the car that long to come out, to drive out there, so we're not sure if we're coming or not. So I started doing Reiki on Dad maybe a month, 3 weeks before the trip to help with his neck. And then, like a week before the trip, my mom says, well, I don't know if I'm going to come with your dad. It's really hurting me to walk. Excuse me. I don't know what the point would be if it's hurting me this bad to walk. I wouldn't be able to actually do anything, and I would be much more comfortable being at home. So I started doing Reiki treatments on my mom every day then too. And both of them were helped enough that they came down on the trip, and my mom did quite a bit of walking for her. Um, but mostly I did try to tailor all the sightseeing around driving around and being in the car most of the time. But still, to get out and see some of the things, you really did have to walk, and my mom did that. And then I think that she enjoyed her trip for the most part. So that was amazing, and it drew me and mom and dad closer together because I was checking in with them, every single day. How okay, I just sent you energy. How are you feeling? That type of thing. My dad actually, um, the very, my dad actually ended up we were more successful with something I wasn't even really aiming for than we were with the crick in the neck, although I was able to help him with that. Um, the first time that I sent him energy was actually late at night for him, and he got up. My friend and I first started sending the energy. He got up and started pacing around the house, just feeling absolutely terrible with some old guilt that he felt that was really not his guilt to hold, about a friend of his that died in Vietnam. And so he paced for the whole 45 minutes, and then when I got done with the treatment, he went back to bed. And he had been having really terrible nightmares, still from Vietnam. And remember, it's what, 2016 now. And after that night, he did not have those nightmares again. I think he had had a nightmare right before I started sending, if I remember exactly. But anyway, he does not have those nightmares again. He does attribute that to the Reiki, and he's appreciative of that. And so, just having that daily communication um, helped to increase our bond, which was not in the best place before. So that was really nice. Um, excuse me. The other thing that Reiki has been doing for me is that when I decided I wanted to take the master class, I could not imagine how I would pay for that unless I had help. And so I put out word on YouTube asking for help to pay for that. And people sent donations. Some people sent $1. Some people sent $100. Some people sent 50 or 25 or 10 or 15, 2, 4, 5. And every gift was a gift from the heart. And it was so amazing. I mean, to me, the small gifts are just as big as the big gifts because they're all a gift from the heart. And it's still going on, it hasn't stopped. Right now, we've raised 23% of the total. So I'm very excited about that. And, it keeps on coming in. So it's an exciting thing to see it keep on coming in. And it has really helped me because I'm not somebody who asks for help a lot. I'm not somebody who um, has been especially good at receiving help before. Um, and so this has been a real growth thing for me. I was very nervous about putting up that first video on YouTube asking for help. And the response has been so loving and amazing and incredible and generous. Oh my gosh. And when I asked for help, I made an offer that everybody who made a donation would receive some amount of time of Reiki healing from me. And so I have been calling these people and finding out what would they like their Reiki to point to work on, and getting to know these people a little bit, and sharing with them, and it has been so wonderful to get to meet all of these different people and to be able to be a part of their lives and to help them. Oh my gosh, overwhelming goodness, overwhelming goodness, overwhelming goodness has been what it has been like to interact with each and every one of these people. So amazing, so incredible. Everyone with a different story, everyone on a different journey. Some similar to mine, some not so similar, and yet still the things that people uh, that we face and that we struggle with, and and the goodness that remains in spite of what we're facing, in spite of our struggle, the pureness of heart, that remains. Oh my gosh. It has just been the most incredible experience for me. So there's been that, and there still is that. And I get excited every time somebody makes a new donation, even if it's $1, because now it's not even so much about the money, because I know the money will all come in as it's supposed to. But what's really exciting to me is, oh, here's a new person I get to meet and interact with and help and get to know a little of their story. And so um, that's the most exciting part of this for me. Just amazing. Just amazing. And one of the people that I gave a Reiki gift to in return, for a donation, has also ended up receiving multiple Reiki treatments from me afterwards. And the results that I've seen with her, with talking to her after, from before and from after the treatments, have been incredible. A lot of them are similar to mine with my relationship issues. And it has just been so much fun to watch and experience and to be a part and to hear about it and to see the growth and just to be uh, cheering and so happy for her and for the changes that are going on in her life. And like, wow, wow, wow. And I get to be a part of that. Like, how cool is that? Oh my gosh. So there's that too. I'm so glad that I do Reiki now. And then I had this thought this morning. This is what actually motivated me to do this video today. Um, and that thought was, I was remembering, well, let me backtrack. I watched a video this morning that was put out by Sacred Science or Sacred Science Team. I'm not exactly sure what the name. Nick Pelosi handles that. Let's see. I'll tell you what it is. The Sacred Science Team. I'm on their newsletter. And today their newsletter featured a video with somebody who has studied depression, and she was talking about depression as a symptom. You know, it's treated a lot with medicine as the problem, the disease. Depression is a disease or whatever. But her view is that depression is a symptom. And I didn't watch the full video. I just watched the excerpt that they had in the email thing. I probably will go back and watch the full video. But anyway, as I was listening to her, I was also, comparing with knowledge and experiences from my life and sort of putting pieces together and realizing that, that makes sense, that it's a symptom. It's a symptom of us being out of touch with who we really are and what we really want to be doing with our days and with our time and with our life. Because when we're on track, oh, life is so sweet and life is so good. And even if it isn't going well, if we're doing what we love to do, life is good anyway. But when we're not doing what we want to do, when we're not following our passion, even though maybe things are going well, I mean, wow, people can be so depressed because they're not doing what they love to do. They're not doing things that make them happy. They're not in touch with their true selves. And so it made a lot of sense to me that depression would be a symptom of being out of touch with yourself, being out of touch with whatever our divine calling might be. So, luckily, I get to do exactly what I love to do. And the more I do it, the happier I am. The more clients I have calling me, the more thrilled I am, the more fulfilled I feel. Um, you know, I love being able to do the things I do, the readings and the Reiki. And so I am so lucky. It's very rare that I'm depressed. Um, but anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So anyway, she was talking about depression as being a symptom of something being wrong in our lives, as opposed to being a disease. And so that makes a lot of sense to me, although I haven't done any scientific study on it. And I was just thinking about that whole concept and the idea that I know that Reiki helps with depression. Um, I know that because Reiki gets into the root issues and dissolves them, that somebody who is depressed or who has anxiety, uh, that can be alleviated greatly over time through Reiki. Now, of course, you still want to follow any doctor's advice that makes sense. But, you know, there's also this supplement that can totally, totally help. And she was talking about the medicines and the psychotropic medicines that people are given for depression. And some of the side effects are crazy. I mean, they make you suicidal or homicidal. And I was thinking back to my first marriage, and I remember my first husband did have some issues, and was put on medicine for his issues, and I really think that um, this is going to sound a little strange, but I feel like he kind of lost his compass. He lost his morals once he was on that medicine. He was much easier to be around. He was much easier to deal with. He was bipolar, so on the medicine, he was much easier to deal with. But at the same time, he also, I noticed that he didn't have as much moral integrity on that as he had had before, crazy as that may sound. And I really think that the reason that we ended up apart was at least in part because of those drugs, because he ended up running around on me, and that really didn't happen until he was assigned those drugs and started taking them, prescribed those drugs. So, you know, that's just my own personal theory. I don't know how much based in reality it really is. That was my personal perception at the time. Um, but trying to make my way to this point here, I know I'm long-winded. When I was a little girl, I used to think that I wanted to be a psychologist. That's what I wanted to go to college for and study, because I wanted to help people. And as I grew up, it became more and more apparent that my parents certainly could not send me to college. And after I was done with high school, I was in a place where I did not want to be at school for a while. I wanted a taste of real life. And so I got out there into the real world. And then I got into the military. And then psychology just became this thing that was far, far, far away. At least studying for it was. And so I was thinking about that this morning after I saw that video about depression. And I was thinking about, if I had studied psychology, I would be looking at the health of the human mind, the health of our emotions from a very clinical way, the way that I would have been taught to look at it. And I don't know how much I would have been able to help. Um, I'm sure some. I would be able to help some people out there. But, it dawned on me with Reiki, I can do so much more to help people than I could have with a psychology degree. And how amazing is that that was a childhood dream of mine. And now here I am, 46 years old, barely went to college, like 4 or 6 hours away from an associate's degree, and never bothered to go back and get it. And I'm in a position now where I can help people much more, I feel, than I could have with the psychology degree through Reiki. And so my childhood dream is really happening, just not in the way that I ever saw it happening, that I ever could have imagined that it would happen. So that was just kind of a cosmic, amazing thought for me this morning, to realize that something I dreamed about when I was 4 and 5 and 6 is actually happening. I'm able to help people, and I'm actually able to help people in deeper ways than I would have been able to had I followed what I originally thought was a good plan to be able to do that. How lucky, how blessed am I? So that's my vlog for the day. Peace out. How do I stop this thing?